The silk sheets twisted beneath my body, sticky against the back of my thighs. My breath came in shallow pants as Nam's mouth moved over my skin like fire. I gasped, fingers curling in his damp hair, hips arching to meet the rhythm of his thrusts. He wasn't gentle tonight. He never was when he felt something slip from his control. Maybe he sensed it, something unspoken threading between us since the wedding. Or maybe it was just the weight of this house pressing down on us both. "You're mine, Ava," he growled, teeth grazing the curve of my shoulder. "Don't ever forget that." I moaned. Whether from pleasure or possession I couldn't tell. The chandelier above us flickered, casting golden shadows over the polished wood of the bedroom walls. This house, his family's estate in the outskirts of New York, was old money, old power. And something older still, something I couldn't name but felt crawling beneath my skin at night. Nam's body tensed above me, the muscles in his arms taut as he pinned me down, thrusting faster, deeper. "Say it," he demanded. "Say you're mine." I hesitated. His fingers tightened around my wrist. "I'm yours," I breathed, voice hoarse, betraying more than lust. He came with a shudder, biting down on the side of my neck hard enough to leave a mark. His weight collapsed over me, and for a moment, the silence wrapped around us like a cocoon. But it didn't last. He rolled off me without a word, turning his back as he reached for a cigarette from the nightstand. I watched the glow of the lighter in the dark, the first drag illuminating his sharp jawline. He always looked distant after sex. But tonight it was worse. I pulled the sheet around me and sat up, the sting of his bite still pulsing on my skin. "You didn't even look at me," I murmured. Nam exhaled smoke into the air, eyes fixed on the ceiling. "You say that like it matters." My chest tightened. "It does. It should." He turned to me then, eyes cold, unreadable. "You think I don't see the way you look at him?" I froze. "What are you talking about?" "My father," he said flatly. "The way your eyes follow him when you think I'm not watching." I felt the color drain from my face. "You're imagining things." "No," he said, voice like steel. "I'm not." I opened my mouth to deny it again, but the truth stuck in my throat like thorns. Because maybe I had looked. Not out of desire. At least, not at first, but out of discomfort, confusion, curiosity. Martin Graves was a man impossible to ignore. In his late 50s, silver at his temples, always dressed in tailored suits, and the kind of presence that turned every room into a theater. A former diplomat, now turned silent investor in shadowy places. Cold, precise, intimidating, but it was his eyes that haunted me. The way he looked at me during dinner, when I passed him in the hallway, when I stood too close to Nam, and he said nothing but stared. Like he knew something about me I didn't. "I'm going for a drink," I said, standing abruptly and pulling a robe over my shoulders. Nam didn't stop me. The hallway was dim and quiet, save for the distant ticking of a grandfather clock. My bare feet patted against the marble floor as I descended the stairs. The wine cellar was at the back of the house, but I didn't make it there. Instead, I veered into the study and poured myself a glass of brandy from the decanter on the shelf. I hated brandy, but I needed something strong. I threw it back in one swallow. The burn in my throat was nothing compared to the storm in my head. I poured another, and another. By the time I left the study, my steps were unsteady and my mind blurred. I meant to return to the bedroom, I think. But the hallway looked different. The shadows deeper. The doors unfamiliar. I opened one at random, stumbled inside. The light was already on, and Martin Graves was there, seated in an armchair by the fire, wearing nothing but a robe loosely tied at the waist, a glass of whiskey in his hand. I froze. He looked up, slow, deliberate. His eyes moved over my body, my flushed skin, the disheveled robe barely covering my breasts. He didn't look surprised. If anything, he looked like he'd been expecting me. "Lost, Ava?" he asked, voice low, rich, intimate. I tried to form words, but the heat of the liquor, the fire, his gaze, it all blurred together. "Come here." It wasn't a question. It wasn't a request. My legs moved before I could stop them. I hated myself for obeying, but there was something in his voice, something that bypassed resistance. He set his glass down and stood as I approached, towering over me. His hand reached out, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "You look like her," he murmured. "Who?" "My wife." I shivered, but not from cold. "Don't," I whispered, stepping back. "I shouldn't be here." "But you are," he said, stepping forward. "And you came to me. It was a mistake." "Was it?" His hand slipped around my waist, fingers splaying against the small of my back. He pulled me close, and I could feel him, hard beneath the robe, his breath warm against my ear. "I've seen the way you look at me, Ava. You've wanted this." I should have slapped him, screamed, "Run!" But I didn't. His lips crashed onto mine, and I didn't pull away. My robe fell open as his hands explored my body with frightening certainty, as if he already knew every inch. My mind screamed no, but my body burned with a shameful hunger. His touch was nothing like Nam's, rougher, colder, but somehow more addictive. He pushed me against the wall, lifting me like I weighed nothing. I wrapped my legs around his waist. And then he was inside me. It was madness. It was wrong. But it didn't stop. And I didn't stop him. The fire was dying in the hearth when I woke, tangled in the remnants of a sin I couldn't deny. My robe lay discarded on the floor. His robe. His scent. His fingerprints were still on my thighs, my breasts, my hips. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just lay there, curled on the edge of his leather couch, ashamed and trembling, as the dawn filtered pale and accusing through the tall windows. Martin wasn't beside me anymore. I sat up slowly and found a glass of water placed on the table with a folded blanket covering my bare shoulders. A quiet gesture, calculated, like everything he did. My fingers wrapped around the glass, but I didn't drink. I was scared I might throw it, at the mirror, at myself, at him, wherever he was. I gathered the robe around me and crept from the study like a thief. Sir, I paused outside my bedroom door. My hand hovered at the knob. What would I say if Nam was awake? Would he smell him on me? Would he touch me and feel the difference? I opened the door. Nam sat on the edge of the bed, fully dressed, elbows on his knees, fingers clasped together. Waiting. I froze. He looked up, calm. No trace of rage. No tears. Just something unreadable in his eyes. My throat went dry. I started, but he cut me off by lifting his hand. Silently, he turned and reached into the drawer of the nightstand. He placed a phone on the bed. A simple black device. Not mine. He tapped the screen. The video started instantly. My stomach dropped. There I was, in the study, stumbling, disoriented. His father standing, approaching, my rope slipping. I lunged for the phone, but Nam didn't stop me. He just watched. The moan that came from the speaker wasn't just mine. It was real, raw. The sound of me giving in. I turned it off. My hands shook. You recorded me?" "No," he said softly. "He did." I couldn't breathe. He leaned back, voice steady. He always does. It's how he keeps control. I clutched the phone like it might burn me. "You knew?" "Yes." "And you let it happen?" His eyes met mine finally, this time without a mask. "I needed you to see him for what he is." I took a step back. "You used me." "I protected you from him for as long as I could," Nam said, standing now. "But you were curious. You looked. And he saw it. Once he sees, he takes." "That doesn't justify anything," I snapped, chest heaving. "You let me fall into his trap." "I didn't let you. I stopped warning you." "That's the same damn thing." He moved closer, slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. "Ava, do you know what happened to my mother?" I stilled. "She died," I said. "Car accident." "That's what you told me." He laughed, low, bitter. "Is that what he told you too? What are you saying?" Nam crossed to the dresser and pulled open the bottom drawer. He took out a faded envelope, thick with age, and handed it to me. I opened it with trembling fingers. Inside were clippings, yellowed news articles. One headline screamed out at me. "Local woman jumps to death from family estate balcony." Another. "Police investigate circumstances of apparent suicide in prominent political family." Photos. A woman in pearls, smiling. Elegant. Fragile. She looked like me. "That's her," Nam said quietly. "My mother." My knees gave out. I sank onto the edge of the bed. She found out she wasn't the only one, he continued. He married her because she was obedient. But she wasn't enough. He needed to dominate, to control, to ruin. I whispered. So she killed herself. Nam knelt before me. Not right away. First she suffered. For years. He made her believe she was mad. He filmed her. Threatened her. Gaslit her into silence. Until one day, she walked barefoot out of the bedroom, climbed the railing and let go. Tears blurred my vision. Nam reached out and gently took the phone from my hands. He did the same to others, he said. Maids. Friends of the family. My teachers. Even my exes. All of them. I tried to stop him. Tried to escape this house. But he owns people, Ava. He doesn't just hurt women. He destroys them. I looked at him, my voice shaking. So what now? You let me be next. To prove a point? His jaw clenched. I hoped maybe you'd be different. Maybe you'd resist. Maybe he'd spare you. But the second you walked into his room last night. I didn't walk in, I hissed. I was drunk. I was disoriented. I didn't mean. You didn't stop, Nam said. And now you know what it feels like. I slapped him. The sound cracked like lightning in the room. He didn't flinch. My palm stung. My heart thundered. You're just like him, I whispered. Nam looked away. Maybe. I staggered up from the bed, pulled my robe tighter and turned toward the door. Where are you going? He asked. Out of this house, I said, voice hollow. Away from both of you. He let me reach the door before he said quietly, You won't get far. I paused. I know you think you're escaping, Nam said. But my father's already decided you belong to him now. He won't chase you. He'll wait. And you'll come back. Because this house, it gets inside you. I didn't reply. I opened the door, walked out, and closed it behind me. I didn't look back. But I couldn't shake the feeling that he was right. I didn't go far. I didn't even make it past the wrought iron gates at the end of the driveway. I stood there in the chill of the early morning, still wrapped in the robe I had grabbed on my way out. The silk clinging to my skin like a memory I wanted to burn off. The fog hung low, thick and wet, like it knew what had happened in that house and wanted to keep it hidden. I stared at the keypad beside the gate, the blinking red light mocking me. I had no code. No keys. No escape. This wasn't just a house. It was a fortress. A cage dressed in chandeliers and marble. Behind me, the mansion stood silent. Watching. Breathing. I heard the gravel crunch under footsteps before I saw him. Martin. I didn't turn. I didn't need to. Ava, he said gently, like a father catching his daughter after she'd run away from home. It's cold. You'll catch something out here. I took a deep breath, forcing steel into my spine. Don't come closer. He stopped only a few steps away. I understand you're upset. Upset? I laughed bitterly. You raped me. I didn't force you, he said calmly, voice silk-wrapped venom. You walked in. You kissed me. I was drunk. Confused. His eyes narrowed just slightly, amused. You moaned my name. I spun around, rage roaring in my chest. You filmed me. You manipulated me. You knew what you were doing. I always know what I'm doing, he said. With a smile so calm it chilled my blood. And now you do too. I wanted to claw the smile from his face. Your wife killed herself because of you. His expression didn't change. I saw the articles. I went on, my voice shaking. I saw what you did to her. What you did to others. He took a slow step forward, eyes locked on mine. And yet here you are, still wearing my robe. Still breathing the air I gave you. You don't understand, Ava. I don't destroy women. I reveal them. I'm not like your wife, I said. He smiled again. You're stronger. I can tell. That's why I chose you. Chose me. My skin crawled. I saw it the first night Nam brought you home. The way you looked around. Hungry. Curious. Beautiful and unsure. I knew it then. He paused. You didn't marry Nam because you loved him. You married him because you wanted more than what you had. I respect that. I stared at him, my mouth dry, heart pounding. You're insane. Martin reached into his coat pocket and held up a small flash drive between his fingers. This is a copy of last night. A gift. You keep it. Do with it what you will. I don't want it. You will, he said softly, stepping closer. Eventually. He pressed the drive into my hand, curling my fingers over it, and let them linger there. His touch so gentle, so deliberate, it made my stomach churn. Then he turned and walked back toward the house, leaving me standing in the mist, frozen and furious. I didn't return until the sun was fully up. I needed the hours, the quiet. I found a hidden bench in the garden behind the east wing, tucked behind tall hedges and ivy-covered walls. I sat there, the flash drive burning in my palm like a wound, my mind spinning. Was Nam right? Would I return? Had I already given in? I didn't remember walking back into the house. Only the silence that wrapped around me like silk. Nam was gone. So was Martin. Or at least, I didn't see either of them. Not right away. I went to our bedroom and locked the door behind me. My laptop sat on the desk. My hand shook as I plugged the drive in. The folder opened instantly. No password. No warning. And there I was. At first I thought I'd look away, but I didn't. I watched. The camera angle was high, discreet. Hidden. I saw myself stumble in. Saw him catch me. The way I leaned into him. The way my robe slipped open. The curve of my shoulder exposed. The expression on his face as he looked down at me. Not as a daughter-in-law. Not even as a woman. But as a possession. I should have stopped it there. But I didn't. I watched the whole thing. I watched myself undress. I watched him kneel. I watched the way he touched me. Not with lust but with ownership. And I hated that some part of me, buried deep, responded to it. I slammed the laptop shut and shoved the drive under the mattress like that could somehow erase what had already happened. Hours passed. Nam came home at dusk. He didn't knock. Didn't speak. Just opened the door and stood there, watching me sit cross-legged on the bed in silence. You watched it, he said. I didn't deny it. He stepped inside and closed the door behind him. Now you understand. No, I said quietly. Now I have more questions. He tilted his head. Why didn't you destroy him? I asked, eyes burning. Why are you still here? Still letting him do this? Why haven't you gone to the police? To the media? Something.
Nam e salet?
Because he has everything. Judges. Cops. Senators. Half the women he hurt won't come forward. The other half are buried in silence or threats. He's untouchable. Then why did you let me walk into that room? My voice broke. He sat beside me, not touching me. Because I'm not strong enough to stop him on my own. So you used me? I whispered again. Yes, he said. The honesty cut deeper than lies ever could. He stood, walked to the door. Before leaving, he turned. You're not the first, he said. But you might be the last. He left me alone with that thought. Not the first, but maybe the last. And in that moment, I realized something far worse than what had happened to me. I wasn't just a victim. I was now a part of this house's legacy. I stayed in bed the entire next day, sunlight spilling across the sheets like a silent accusation. Every time I blinked, I saw his face. Martin's. And Nam's. Different kinds of betrayal layered on top of each other like poison and honey. I wanted to shower. I wanted to scrub him off my skin, out of my body, out of my mind. But no amount of hot water could erase what had already sunk too deep. My chest ached with the weight of it. In the early afternoon, I finally rose and walked to the mirror. I looked like a stranger. My lips were swollen, not from tears but from memory. My neck had faint bruises from his fingers. My robe, once a symbol of comfort, felt like a mark of shame. I heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow, measured. They stopped right outside my door. Then a knock. I said nothing. Ava. Nam's voice came through low and quiet. You need to come downstairs. I didn't answer. There was a pause. It's about my mother. That stopped me cold. When I opened the door, Nam stepped back. He didn't meet my eyes. He led me down the wide staircase, past the silent chandelier, through the long corridor lined with ancestral portraits. At the end there was a door I hadn't seen before. Heavy oak, carved with patterns that looked like roots twisting into each other. He pulled a key from his pocket and unlocked it. It opened to a narrow staircase that spiraled downward into darkness. I'm not going down there, I said. You need to, he replied. He flicked on a switch. Dim yellow light hummed down the stairwell. She kept everything. Journals. Recordings. Letters. She knew what he was. Why didn't she leave? I asked bitterly. She tried, he said. But he always found a way to bring her back. He started descending. I hesitated for a second, then followed. The basement was colder than I expected. Not damp or moldy. It smelled sterile. Like a hospital. The walls were lined with shelves. Old boxes labeled by year. A desk sat in the center, with a small black notebook resting on it like it had been waiting for me. Nam picked it up and handed it over. Last one she wrote before she died. I opened it. Her handwriting was neat, steady. Page after page she detailed her life with Martin. The manipulation. The gaslighting. The times he would sneak into her room and whisper things no husband should say to his wife. Things about control, and power and submission. One page made my stomach twist. He told me once that I reminded him of his mother. How she used to kneel when she spoke to him. How he believed women were made to serve and be silent. That loving me meant consuming me. I closed the book. He broke her, I whispered. Nam nodded. And you knew? He looked at me with something that wasn't quite guilt, something colder. I was 13 when I found the first tape. I didn't understand what I was watching. But I knew it wasn't love. A pause. She tried to kill herself once before. Pills. He found her and nursed her back to health himself like a good husband. Made sure everyone thought she was fragile. Emotional. Unstable. And the second time? I asked. Nam's jaw clenched. He let her do it. That time he didn't stop her. Just watched her go into the bath. Locked the door from the outside. She slit her wrists in silence. The air felt like ice in my lungs. Nam leaned against the desk, arms crossed. I stayed. Because I thought I could outplay him. Gather evidence. Prove it all one day. But he's always one step ahead. Every file I stole he replaced. Every threat I made he countered. You don't fight him with truth. You trap him. I swallowed hard. And I was part of that trap. He didn't deny it. I backed away. You're just like him. No, he said. I don't get off on control. I just wanted to stop. I stared at the notebook in my hands. A woman's slow unraveling inked on every page. A warning I hadn't seen until too late. You're going to have to make a choice, Nam said. Either you walk away and pretend none of this happened, or you help me end it. Help you how? I asked cautiously. He looked me straight in the eye. By becoming the monster he thinks you are. That night, I stood in front of the mirror again, wearing something I hadn't worn in weeks. One of the red silk gowns Martin had gifted me when I first moved in. He said it matched the fire in my eyes. I hated that I remembered that line. But I needed to be what he wanted. I needed him to believe he'd won. When I walked into his study, Martin was sitting by the fireplace, a glass of whiskey in one hand, the other resting on a book he wasn't reading. His gaze slid over me, slow and smug. Well, he murmured. Looks like someone's had a change of heart. I walked toward him, hips swaying the way he liked. My mouth smiled, but my eyes didn't. Maybe I just stopped fighting what I really wanted, I said. He stood and approached me, towering, confident. I knew you'd come around. He reached for me. I let him. But I also reached for the button on the inside of my bracelet. The tiny hidden recorder Nam had built, already live. Martin's voice was smooth as honey and just as sticky. You're going to give me what she never could. Your wife. I asked softly. He didn't hesitate. She was weak. You're not. And what about Nam? I whispered. He chuckled. Nam will do what he's always done, obey. I kissed him then. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. I let his hands slide down my back. I let him guide me to the rug in front of the fire. I let his mouth press to my skin. And I let the recorder catch every word. Every groan. Every damning sentence. Because if I was going to burn in this house, I'd make sure he burned with me. The next morning, the house felt quieter than usual. Not peaceful. Just hushed, like it was holding its breath, waiting for the end of something. I woke alone. My body ached in places I refused to acknowledge, not from pain but from memory. Last night still clung to my skin, like the smoke of the fire we'd laid on. The recorder was still safely hidden in my bracelet, but I hadn't dared to play it yet. I didn't need to hear it. I could still feel every word. I stepped into the hallway and made my way toward the study. Nam was already there, standing by the window, his posture stiff, hands tucked into the pockets of his slacks. He turned when I entered. His eyes dropped to the bracelet on my wrist. "You got it." I nodded. Without speaking, he reached for his laptop and motioned me over. I unclipped the bracelet, handed it to him. My fingers shook slightly, but I didn't let it show. He connected the recorder and transferred the file. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Only the quiet hum of the machine filled the space between us. Then Nam pressed play. Martin's voice spilled into the room like poison. "You're going to give me what she never could. And then mine. Your wife? She was weak. You're not." My stomach twisted, but I didn't flinch. Not when I heard the sound of his zipper. Not when I heard my moans. My voice breathy. Practiced. Fake. All of it performed with a single goal in mind: trap him. When the recording ended, Nam sat back, his jaw tight. "This is enough." "It's more than enough." "To do what?" I asked quietly. He looked at me, like he was measuring how far I was willing to go. "Expose him. Every part of him." I've already sent encrypted copies of the basement files and my mother's journals to 3 different reporters. This recording will be the final nail. "And then what?" I asked. "We both just walk away and pretend we didn't get pulled into this mess?"
Nam stood aloud. "No."
"We finish it." That night everything moved quickly. Nam sent out the recording. We didn't wait for fallout. We didn't need to. By morning, the vultures would descend: journalists, investigators, former colleagues with hushed stories they'd never dared tell before. But I knew Martin. He wouldn't let things collapse without a fight. Around midnight, I heard his footsteps outside my door. Not rushed. Not frantic. Calm. Calculated. He knocked once and pushed the door open. I was sitting on the bed, already waiting for him. His face gave nothing away, but I noticed the faint tremor in his hand. "So," he said, "it was all a performance." I said nothing. "You and Nam," he added, "working together behind my back. Clever." "I learned from the best," I replied coolly. Martin stepped closer. "You think anyone will believe you? Believe that tape? You moan like a hungry bitch. You begged me for it." I stood up slowly. "And you gave it to me. Every sick, twisted part of yourself. That's what people will hear. That's what they'll believe." For a second, something dark flickered behind his eyes. Then it vanished. "I made this house," he said. "I made Nam. I made you. You destroyed your wife." That stopped him. He stared at me, the facade cracking. "She was ungrateful. I gave her everything. I made her real. You broke her until she chose death over being yours." His expression shifted into something colder, something hollow. "And you think you're stronger than her?" "I know I am." He lunged. It happened fast. Too fast. But I was ready. As he grabbed me, I slammed the edge of the lamp into his temple. He staggered back, blood spilling down his temple. He wasn't unconscious, just dazed. But it was enough. Nam burst into the room seconds later, holding a phone. "It's done. The police are coming." Martin looked between the two of us, laughter bubbling up in his throat. "You think this ends with me in jail? You think this story matters?" "No," Nam said, voice steady. "But it ends with you." Martin lunged again, this time toward Nam. But my husband didn't flinch. He stepped back, letting Martin trip on the edge of the bed. Martin crashed to the floor, groaning, and stayed there. We didn't speak again until the police arrived. They took him, cuffed and red-faced, down the marble stairs he once lorded over like a king. As they read him his rights, his eyes flicked to me, still full of arrogance, but the edges fraying. "You'll regret this." He spat. But I didn't. I never would. 2 days later, the story was everywhere. Headlines, news feeds, whispered conversations at country clubs and boardrooms. Real estate tycoon Martin Langston accused of rape, abuse, and coercion. Reporters found others. Victims who had stayed silent. His kingdom crumbled in hours. Nam and I sat side by side in the same study where it had all begun. "I'm leaving," I said. Nam didn't argue. "I didn't expect you to stay," he replied quietly. "You used me." "Yes." "And you let him touch me." He flinched. "I know. I'll never forgive you." He nodded. You don't have to. We sat in silence for a long time. Then he added, but thank you for finishing what my mother couldn't. I left that night. No suitcase. Just the clothes on my back, and a weight lifted from my shoulders that would take years to understand. I started over. Different city. New name. But sometimes, I still wake up in the middle of the night, breathless, the ghost of his hands on my skin. Sometimes I hear Nam's voice calm and cold. Help me end it. And I remember what it felt like to play with monsters and survive. I wasn't a victim. I wasn't innocent. But I was free. And that was enough.